Hey champs, today we're going to talk about the top 10 products that you don't want to sell for your Amazon FBA private label business. I see a lot of people make these same common mistakes over and over and over, and it ends up being a dud product for them that doesn't work out and doesn't make them profit. So we're going to go over those top 10 types of products today. You'll probably learn several things along the way, so make sure you watch these and let's jump right in. So the number one product is products with too low of a price point. And by too low of a price point, generally I mean below the $20 mark and for sure below the $15 mark. And here's why. So I generally teach my students to look for around $10 in profit minimum per item when you're selling a private label product. And the reason is because you're launching a new brand, you're launching a new product, and you're gonna need to advertise that product, okay? So if on average, each click of Amazon pay-per-click advertising costs about $1 per click for you to advertise your product. If you only have, say, $5 of profit, then you need a sale every 5 clicks just to be break even, or one sale every 4 clicks just to be a little bit profitable, okay? And if that's all the profit you have, then you'll probably never be able to get advertising profitable. If you only have to get a sale every 4 clicks, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for you to do that, okay? And you'll have to rely on organic rankings to do that. But to get organic rankings, you need sales, and to get sales, you need to advertise. So make sure you're not selling products below $15 or $20 at the minimum, because you just won't have enough money to advertise and you won't have enough profit left over just for you to keep in your profit. Number 2 is breakable products. The thing you have to realize about breakable products is they have to come all the way over from the manufacturer in China. They have to get on a boat or an airplane, come all the way to the US. Then they have to go to an Amazon warehouse. Then somebody has to pick them out of the Amazon warehouse and send them to UPS or FedEx, and then they're going to ship them all the way to the customer, okay? And if it's somewhat breakable, it needs to survive that entire trip all along that way, okay? So if it's breakable, you need to really, really package it well. So in my Amazon FBA Facebook group, one of my students, George, just shared a super helpful tip about breakable products. If you're not in our Facebook group, make sure you join. The link is down below, because you'll be able to see helpful tips and ask questions like this all the time. So in our Amazon FBA Facebook group, we just had a recent post by one of my friends, George. He's actually one of my students. He's got a huge personality, and we were talking about breakable items, and he had really good advice to share. And let me show you the post. So Ari here is asking, I'm ordering fragile items from China to Amazon. How do I check that the product is not broken when it arrives in the US before it gets to FBA? Okay, so the answer would that be is you would get an inspection to make sure that it's not broken in China. But the advice here by George is so awesome. He says, you aren't going to like what you hear. By far, the worst and dumbest mistake I've made in the beginning of my business last year is to launch ceramic potted plants. I thought millions of them were being sold, and as long as you could protect them well enough, there should be no breakage. I could not have been more wrong. A very long and painful story. I lost a bunch of money, nerves, and times. Is it possible to do fragile stuff successfully? Sure. If they are overprotected in the most sophisticated and adequate foam modes, possibly. And he says, even after your items come to Amazon FBA, they can be broken by the local delivery people. So don't go with glass or ceramics at all. And that's the type of advice that you either have to hear or you have to learn on your own. And that's why I always talk about the learning curve, because if you just never heard that advice, or you didn't take my course, or you weren't in our Facebook group and you just didn't know that advice, you could launch something like that and possibly have a failed product just because of that one piece of advice or one piece of information that you didn't know. Now, there is an exception to this rule, and that's if you package your product really, really well so that it won't break. Put it through a drop test and have your inspector go and just drop it from 5 feet down and make sure that it can't break. If it can't break, then you can have a product that could sell really well because yours doesn't break and everybody else does. Also, comment down below if you've sold a product that didn't end up working out for you and why it didn't work out. down in the comments. So we'll be able to read a whole bunch of different products that may or may not have worked out for you guys, like George's ceramic pots. So if you have any products like that that didn't work out for you for a specific reason, comment down below and let us know. Okay, the number 3 product not to sell is electronics, okay? And almost every single one of these is going to have an exception to the rule, but for the most part, especially if you're a beginner on your first product or your second product, a lot of these are going to be really good advice for you, okay? So electronics have a high return rate, okay, for a couple reasons. One, they get the product and they don't understand how to use it. It's just difficult. You got to remember that anybody could be buying this product, a 20-year-old or a 70-year-old, okay? And if they don't really know how to use the product or it doesn't work the way they thought, they'll return it. Also, electronics can pretty much go bad a month or 2 or 3 later, and they'll return it then also. So generally, electronics can be profitable, and you can launch a successful electronics product, but you're probably going to have a much higher return rate. The normal return rate for an average everyday Amazon item is like 1 or 2%, but electronics, it'll probably be over 10%. Now, you can still make a ton of money with electronics, but you pretty much have to like build that in to, you know, your profit analysis when you're going through deciding what type of product to sell. But if you're taking my advice, don't sell electronics for your first product unless you have an absolutely killer product and you just know it's going to be amazing. So the next type of product you probably don't want to sell is clothing, and let me show you why. So here's an example of a t-shirt sold on Amazon. I mean, there's thousands of t-shirts sold on Amazon, okay? But here's the problem. So every single one of these different colors is a variation, okay? So each one of these is pretty much a different product, okay? Now, obviously you wouldn't want to start with this, but let's just say you started with 1 or 2. You have 2 different variations there. The next problem is all the sizes. So this one shirt has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sizes. So now, instead of just launching a product where you could launch with, let's just say 300 units, now you have 5 different sizes. So what are you going to do? 100 of each size, 200 of each size? So that's the problem with clothing. The other problem with clothing, just like electronics, is it has a much higher return rate. So for example, if I order a shirt and I order a large and it doesn't fit me, it's either too large or too small, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to return it, okay? So your average return rate in clothing is much higher than 1 or 2%, oftentimes over 10%, okay? So you can sell clothing, but it's probably not the best product for a beginner, again, unless you have an absolutely killer product, okay? And you've built that type of returns into your margins. So the next product you probably don't want to sell is products with batteries. Let me show you. So here's an example of one of the documents that Amazon would have. There's restrictions and requirements if you're selling a product with batteries, especially if they're lithium-ion batteries. And a lot of times you have to go through hazmat and you have to go through all these different restrictions and get approved for it. And if you're a brand new seller, a lot of times you can't. And a lot of times it's just a big hassle to go through. So again, unless you have an absolutely killer product that you just know is going to succeed or you really want to launch it, then stay away from products with batteries. Plus, because batteries are electronics and you have a higher return rate in that category to begin with. Okay, the next type of product is products with patents or trademarks, okay? If a product is patented or even trademarked, chances are Amazon's going to take your product down and you might get up and start selling it, but after a couple weeks or even a month, Amazon can take it down if the owner files a trademark infringer or copyright infringement, and they'll take your product down, and chances are you won't be able to get it back up and won't be able to sell it at all. So make sure you're doing a trademark and a patent search before you actually buy your product. Let me show you how to do that really quickly. So there's 2 ways. Just go to Google and type in Google Patents, and you'll come up to the Google Patents webpage, and you can actually type in the patents here. So, you know, whatever your product was, let's just say it's a ceramic potted plant. You know, you could type that in and you're going to see the different products that have patents, okay? And you would just want to make sure, I mean, you can see there's patents on all these different types of products. You would want to make sure that the specific product you're selling isn't covered by one of these patents, okay? And the other way is to go to uspto.gov and you can do patent and trademark searches there. That's the US government website. And just doing a few minutes of research can really help you out and prevent you from selling a product that could later on get taken down and just lose all your money. Okay, so number 7 is seasonal items. And there's two types of seasonal items that I kind of classify things as. Things that are like very, very, very seasonal, like Christmas items, okay? Those are pretty much only gonna sell for about 30 days before Christmas, and then they're not gonna sell, okay? And then there's products like summer products or winter products that can sell for 3 to 6 months of the year, okay? So keep that in mind. Like a bathing suit or a, snow shovel, those are seasonal, okay? And a lot of people don't think about that ahead of time when they're selling a seasonal product. So if you are selling a seasonal product, you probably don't want to do that first category, the ultra seasonal, because you only have about 30 days out of the whole year that you'll be able to make profit. Now, summer items or winter items, you can make profit on, especially if you know this ahead of time and you know the season. You get your inventory in before the season, and then you kind of sell out as the season goes by. You can make a lot of money. Sometimes you can make a year's worth of profit in that 3 to 6 months or even more because it's such hot sellers during that season. And in the off season, you just either have very little inventory or no inventory at Amazon, and you just restock when the next season comes up. But if you're a beginner and you're brand new and you're not sure about all this, probably stay away from seasonal items unless you really think it through and do all your research. Number 8 is restricted products, okay? There's a bunch of restricted categories and products, and as a new seller, you probably won't be able to get past them, or it'll take you a whole bunch of legwork to get past them. Let me show you. So this is one of the Amazon restricted products pages. You can pretty much just find this by Googling Amazon restricted products, and you'll see down here, there's a whole bunch of categories of products like alcohol, lighting. Lighting is a whole category you have to actually get approved for, and if you're a brand new seller, that might be hard to do. And pesticides is a huge issue. If you have a bunch of even specific words that are even broadly related to a pesticide, a pest, or insects, your whole listing can get taken down, and you'll have to go through a whole procedure. And in fact, if you're not from the US, they won't even let you sell a product like this at all. So make sure you do your due diligence and you go through the restricted products categories and just know what you would need to do to get past that. Now, as always, the exception to the rule with restricted products is they're less competitive. So if you do your research and you know what to do, you can get unrestricted for them and sell it. You can oftentimes land in a product category that's very profitable because there's not a lot of competition, okay? So keep that in mind. So the next item, number 9, that you don't want to sell is oversized products, especially if you're a beginner. And there's a couple reasons why. So one, the shipping from China to Amazon is like 2 or 3 times more expensive. Just because if you think about a shipping carton, let's just say it's a big box, you can typically only get like anywhere from 2 to 6 of them in a carton, where like if it was a small item, you might be able to get 25 of them or 50 of them in there. So they just take up a lot more space, which means a lot more for shipping. I have a couple oversized items. They're like $6 just to ship each one of them. And that's the total cost. Now, a lot of your products, when you're starting off as a beginner, your whole entire product might be less than $6 to ship per unit, including the shipping and the manufacturing cost. Well, oversized, your shipping alone is $6. Also, the Amazon fees are generally like 2 or 3 times more money. Let me show you. Okay, so here is a little bedding set. We're gonna bring this up as a great example here. And as you can see, it's large standard size here. So on this $49 price point right here, we're going to look, and the actual profit calculated is $17 here, as you can see here. So the fee here for the FBA fee is $8.68, and the referral fee down below that 15% is going to stay the same because that's based on the price, okay? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the dimensions here, and we're gonna add 10 inches onto one side of it. So what I want you to do is watch this profit down here. We're at $17. Let me add 10 inches onto one side, and look at that. Literally, our profit went negative, okay? You see it changed into the small oversized, and it literally took all $17 of our profit and made it go negative. Look at our FBA fee, went all the way up to $18. So let's delete that 10 inches here. Our FBA fee is $8, and it literally went from $8.68 to $18. And our freight cost went to $12 Before it was $5. So you can see it added $7 more of estimated shipping costs there also. Okay, so that is a mistake that I see people make, is that they package a product like this and it somewhat barely goes into the oversized size and it ends up oversized, and they end up actually losing money on every single item because their product was like 1 inch over the oversized. So instead of making $17 per unit, they make $0 per unit. So that is something you want to really be aware of when you're shipping an item and making sure it's not in the oversized category. Now, as always, the exception to the rule is oversized has a lot of profitable items, okay? Especially because they tend to be products that are like $40, $50 or more. $40, $50 really on the low end, because you can't sell a profitable oversized product for like less than $40. There's just not enough profit with the shipping and the Amazon fees and all that stuff. But you can, if you have a good budget, if you have a lot of money to invest in a product, you can look for oversized products and you'll find products that have very little competition and high profit per unit. It's like $20 of profit per unit or more, simply because it's oversized and the barrier to entry is harder to get into. Let me show you how to do it. So for example, when you're doing your product research and you're using either Jungle Scout or Helium 10, most of you guys are going to want to select standard here and it's basically it's going to find only non-oversized items, okay? So every single item that you find when you're going through these different categories and putting in your different criteria is going to be not oversized. But if you want to look just for oversized, you can select just oversized and find only oversized products, as long as you're aware that they're going to cost you more, but you could find a really profitable niche by doing that. So number 10 is not differentiated products. As many of you know, I'm a big fan of the hit TV show Shark Tank. In fact, this is one of my favorite products, the Scrub Daddy. This product has sold, I think, over $50 million in products. But if you did product research on sponge or kitchen sponge or any keyword that pertains to this, it would not meet any good criteria. It'd be way too competitive, and it would probably have low price points, and it would be like the worst niche to ever launch in. But yet this product had made over $50 million in sales. Why is that? It's because they differentiated. So at the end of the day, if you come up with a really good product idea or a really good differentiation, so they took just a regular sponge and they made it awesome and they made it very likable, okay? And you can literally use this for years and it still stays the same. It doesn't degrade. It has all sorts of cool properties and stuff. So literally by making a unique product or differentiating your product, you can take the worst type of category, the worst type of search on Amazon that's just way too competitive and make it a multi-million-dollar product because you did one thing right. And that's the beauty of Amazon, is a lot of times you can go through this, and if you do one or two things really, really good, you can have a product that pretty much replaces your 9-to-5 job just by doing one or two things right. So that is the beauty of Amazon. So we talked about the types of products not to sell. In my next video, we're going to talk about the type of products to sell and the type of things you do want to look for and the type of categories you do want to sell in. So make sure you watch that. I will link that video over here if it's out already. If it's not out, there'll be a different video over here. So make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss that next video that comes out. The YouTube algorithm will not always show you the next video if you're not subscribed with the bell icon. So, and over here, I'll link my Amazon FBA free training. Take that if you haven't yet also, and I will see you in the next video.